Help me hit 7,000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and share your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone. Thank you. I didn't suspect anything at first. Not because I was naive, but because when you love someone for years, your brain learns how to protect your heart by explaining things away. I'm Elliot, 38, and until recently, I thought I had a solid marriage. Not perfect. Not romantic movie perfect. But steady. Predictable. Safe. Or at least that's what I told myself. My wife's name was Maribel. That name still feels strange in past tense. We'd been together 11 years, married for 7. She was sharp, social, always had a story to tell. I was quieter, more grounded. I worked logistics for a regional firm, long hours, decent money, no drama. We used to joke that she brought the color into my life and I brought the structure into hers. Somewhere along the way, that balance shifted. Started small. Later nights. Shorter answers. Her phone never left her hand, even at dinner. If I asked how her day was, I'd get a surface-level response, followed by silence while she scrolled. I noticed, but I didn't accuse. I told myself this is what long-term relationships look like. Comfort replaces curiosity. That's normal, right? One night, while she was showering, her phone buzzed on the counter. I didn't pick it up. I didn't even look at the screen. But the sound stayed with me longer than it should have. That's when I realized something uncomfortable. I didn't trust her the way I used to. If this story already feels familiar, take a second and hit like. It helps stories like this reach the people who might need them. A few weeks later, her best friend Lydia came over. Lydia had always been observant, the kind of person who noticed tone shifts and half-truths. After dinner, Maribel stepped outside to take a call. Lydia stayed behind, swirling ice in her glass, avoiding eye contact. She's been different, Lydia said casually. I nodded. Yeah, work stress, I think. She hesitated. Then she said it. I think she might have someone else. The words landed softly but cut deep. I didn't explode. I didn't demand proof. I laughed it off, actually. Told Lydia she was overthinking it. That Maribel and I were just in a rough patch. Lydia didn't argue. She just looked at me with something close to pity and said, I hope I'm wrong. That should have been my wake-up call. Instead, I doubled down on denial. At this point in the story, I'm curious. Do you think Lydia crossed a line? Or was she trying to help? Drop your thoughts in the comments. The truth came slowly, like a leak you don't notice until the floorboards rot. Maribel stopped asking where I was. Stopped caring when I came home late. She dressed nicer for errands than she did for date nights. And the intimacy faded. Not abruptly, gradually, like she was easing me out of her life without making a scene. One evening, I finally asked, calmly, carefully, is there someone else? She didn't deny it right away. She sighed, long and tired. I didn't plan for this, she said. It just happened. That was the moment I thought I understood the worst of it. Cheating, emotional affair, another man, painful but familiar territory, almost cliché. I asked who he was. She hesitated again, longer this time, and then she told me something I wasn't prepared for. There isn't just one, she said. There never really was. She explained it like a confession mixed with relief. Dating apps, messages, tension, validation from strangers when she felt invisible at home. No single affair to point at, just a pattern of escape. That's when Lydia's words came back to me. Someone else. She was right, but the truth was worse. It wasn't another man. It was a whole other life. If you've ever felt replaced not by a person, but by a version of someone you no longer recognize, type the word "seen" in the comments. I didn't yell. I didn't beg. I asked one question. Why stay married to me? She shrugged. Because you're safe. You make things easy. That sentence did more damage than any affair could. I slept on the couch that night, not because I was kicked out, but because I couldn't lie next to someone who saw me as convenience instead of choice. The next morning, Lydia texted me. Just one line. I'm sorry. I tried to warn you. I realized then that betrayal doesn't always come with chaos. Sometimes it arrives quietly, wrapped in routine, And by the time you notice, your role in someone's life has already been rewritten. If you think this story might help someone recognize the signs earlier than I did, consider sharing it. You never know who's silently living this reality. That was the beginning of the end. Not the dramatic part. Not yet. Just the moment I stopped lying to myself. Because once you see the truth clearly, you can't unsee it. And what came next forced me to make a decision I never thought I'd have the courage to make. For a while, nothing changed on the surface. We still lived under the same roof. Still talked about groceries, bills, and schedules. That's the strange thing about emotional endings. They don't always come with slammed doors or raised voices. Sometimes they show up as politeness where intimacy used to live. Maribel acted lighter after the confession. Almost relieved, like she had finally put down a weight she'd been carrying alone. I, on the other hand, felt heavier by the hour. Every memory replayed itself with new meaning. Late nights, missed calls, sudden smiles at messages that had nothing to do with me. One evening, a week later, Lydia asked if we could talk. Just the two of us. We met at a quiet coffee place near the river. She didn't waste time. She didn't tell you everything, Lydia said. I didn't feel shocked, just tired. What did she miss? Lydia stared at her cup. She's been planning an exit for months. Not just emotionally, financially, logistically. She's been saving, looking at apartments, talking to people about starting fresh. I nodded slowly. That explained the detachment, the calm, the way she had already grieved us while I was still trying to hold the marriage together. She didn't want to look like the bad person, Lydia added. So she let things rot until you'd be the one to walk away. That hurt, but it also clarified something important. I wasn't being abandoned in a moment of confusion. I was being replaced by a plan. At this point, I want to know, do you think emotional exit planning is a deeper betrayal than physical cheating? Share your perspective in the comments and let's talk about it. That night, I didn't confront Maribel. I didn't need to. I already knew enough. Instead, I packed a small bag and drove around the city for hours. No destination, just movement. I needed space to hear my own thoughts without her presence blurring them. By the time I got back, it was close to midnight. She was awake, sitting at the table. "You're late," she said. "I know." She looked at the bag. "Are you leaving?" I thought about lying. About saying just for a night. About softening it. But honesty felt overdue. "I'm choosing myself," I said. For the first time in a long time. She didn't cry. She nodded, almost approvingly. "That's probably for the best," she said. And just like that, 11 years collapsed into a calm, mutual acknowledgement that the story was over. I stayed with my brother for a few weeks. The silence there felt different. Not heavy, clean. I slept better than I had in years. Slowly, the fog lifted. I started noticing how much of myself I had shrunk to keep the peace. How often I'd ignored my instincts just to avoid conflict. Lydia checked in once more. She apologized for not pushing harder when she first sensed something was wrong. I told her the truth. "You did warn me," I said. "I just wasn't ready to listen." That's the part no one talks about. Warnings only work when you're willing to hear them. Until then, they just sound like noise. Maribel and I finalized the separation quietly. No dramatic legal battle. No public fallout. Just paperwork and distance. She moved into a place downtown. New life. New routines. I wished her well. Not because she deserved forgiveness, but because holding resentment felt like letting her take something else from me. Months later, I ran into her by accident. She looked happy. Different. So did I. We exchanged polite words and went our separate ways. No closure speech. No final lesson. Just two people walking in opposite directions. And that was enough. If this story resonated with you, consider sharing it with someone who might be questioning their own reality right now. Sometimes a story opens a door that fear keeps closed. Here's what I learned, and maybe you'll recognize it too. Betrayal isn't always about infidelity. Sometimes it's about being kept as a backup while someone prepares a future that doesn't include you. And when you realize that Staying loyal to the version of love you imagined becomes a form of self-betrayal. Walking away doesn't mean you failed. Sometimes it means you finally stopped participating in something that was quietly breaking you. Before this ends, I'd like you to reflect. What do you think hurts more? Being lied to or being slowly replaced? Comment with the word that fits your experience best. I don't regret loving Maribel. I regret ignoring myself for so long. But even that regret served a purpose. It taught me what self-respect actually feels like when you stop negotiating it away. If you made it this far, you already understand the heart of this story. Please like this story, subscribe for more real-life narratives that explore truth, self-worth, and emotional clarity. And in the comments tell me, what would you have done differently if you were in my place? And why?